molecule to date are supportive of investing further in zanidatamab. Sam will discuss our expanded view on the value zanidatamab may offer to HER2-expressing cancer patients later in the call. I'll now turn the call to Chumi for a discussion of our commercialization plans.
Thanks, Bob. The FDA approval of Zahira is a landmark achievement, and our team is ready to deliver this transformative therapy for GEA patients. I will start by outlining the significant unmet need for GEA patients on slide 13. GEA, which includes cancers of the stomach, gastroesophageal junction, and esophagus, is the fifth most common cancer worldwide. Almost all GEA patients, about 90%, are symptomatic and usually present to a primary care provider or in the ER with complaints such as difficulty swallowing, painful swallowing, unexplained weight loss, blood and cough, or abdominal pain. Because the vast majority of GEA patients are diagnosed at an advanced stage, immediate intervention is critical. Approximately 20% of patients are diagnosed with HER2-positive disease, which translates to an annual incidence of about 8,000 cases in the U.S. HER2-positive GEA is associated with high morbidity and mortality, and there remains a high unmet need for new treatment options. The overall prognosis for patients with GEA remains poor, with a 5-year survival rate of less than 10% for metastatic GEA. This combination of high morbidity, mortality, poor prognosis, and limited first-line treatment options underscores the urgent need for new therapies for these patients. The annual incidence of 8,000 HER2-positive GEA cases translates to a highly defined, treatable patient population. When we look to patients who have unresectable disease, those who are eligible to receive treatment in the first line, and those who receive HER2 testing, we reach a market of 3,000 to 4,000 patients on an annual basis who are excellent candidates to receive Zahira. Our commercial investment strategy is focused on patient identification in GEA, ensuring no patient is left behind. On slide 14, I will highlight how we expect the treatment paradigm to evolve beyond legacy standards of care and reshape the management of HER2-positive GEA. For more than a decade, trastuzumab-based therapy has been the foundation of treatment for HER2-positive GEA, and Zahira represents a meaningful advance for these patients. In prior standards of care, which are shown on the left side of the slide, patients would need to be tested for PD-L1 status. Those who tested positive for PD-L1 were eligible for the newest regimen known as KEYNOTE-811, which added an IO to the ToGA regimen, while patients who tested negative for PD-L1 would continue to receive the trastuzumab-based ToGA regimen. Now, with Zahira, once patients have confirmed HER2 positivity, the treating physician is able to begin treatment with the Horizon regimen without testing for a patient's PD-L1 status and without delay. Given the unprecedented survival outcomes seen from the Horizon GEA trial, we expect the Zahira IO chemotherapy regimen to rapidly become the preferred clinical choice for eligible HER2-positive GEA patients. Moving to slide 15, our launch strategy is built on rapid execution and operational leverage designed to swiftly establish Zahira as a definitive HER2-targeted backbone. Critically, our success in BTC serves as a powerful commercial foundation for our next major growth phase in GEA. Because there is a significant direct overlap between existing BTC and GEA treating accounts, our commercial infrastructure is fully primed and highly optimized. With over 90% target physician overlap, our team will rapidly generate clinician excitement and demand. This enthusiasm is rooted in zanidatamab's exceptional clinical data, specifically an unprecedented median overall survival exceeding 2 years. Due to the high overlap across our solid tumor accounts, our field force has already established relationships with the highest volume prescribers. our team is right-sized to capture the larger GEA market without requiring commercial expansion. The key components of our launch strategy leverage Jazz's strengths as a rare disease company, including identifying specific patient populations and building a precise commercial infrastructure to serve them. Our launch model is based on the blueprint for how Jazz successfully commercializes therapies for rare and complex diseases. The key component of Zahira launch is identifying the right patient at the right time to accelerate adoption of Zahira. The HER2 testing infrastructure is already mature, with 80 to 90% of patients undergoing biomarker testing at diagnosis. Anywhere from 60 to 80% of HER2-positive patients go on to receive a HER2-targeted therapy, depending on where the patient is being treated. While academic centers lead in adopting biomarker-driven therapies, we are actively closing this gap in the community setting. Our launch in second-line BTC established a foundation for us to rapidly increase our presence in these community accounts and accelerate Zahira's adoption in GEA. We are executing our high-touch commercial model across academic and community networks, deploying specialized peer educators and dedicated support systems to ensure seamless treatment initiation and long-term patient adherence. To complement direct engagement, our non-personal promotion and digital campaigns will increase awareness of Zahira as a new treatment option. To support immediate clinical adoption at launch, we have submitted this data to key oncology pathways. Ordering is available for customers through leveraging our established permanent J-code and is also backed by our robust Jazz Cares patient support program. Rounding out the foundational components of our strategy is an emphasis on creating exceptional patient initiation and treatment experiences, which I will describe on the next slide. We have made strategic investments that support sustained patient adherence to treatment, including the Nurse Educator Program and Patient Starter Kit. Details on these programs are outlined on slide 16. The Nurse Educator Program is comprised of oncology-certified nurses who provide peer-to-peer proactive education on the dosing and administration of Zahira. The Patient Starter Kit include educational resources around adverse event management with common over-the-counter loperamide. By supporting education around long-term adherence, we can help patients achieve the best possible outcomes. These materials were developed with feedback from patients, caregivers, and advocacy groups and are designed to improve patient safety, comprehension, and satisfaction. We remain committed to empowering patients and caregivers through every step of the treatment journey and are so excited to bring a therapy with such dramatic survival improvement to them. I'll now turn the call over to Sam to review the commercial opportunity for Zahira.
Thank you, Chumi. This approval is transformational for patients with HER2-positive GEA and marks an important inflection point for Zahira. With approvals now in both BTC and GEA, Zahira has evolved from a promising pipeline asset into a commercially launched medicine with the potential to become a foundational HER2-targeted treatment across multiple tumor types. Our previous $2 billion plus peak sales potential was based on the foundational indications of first-line and second-line BTC, first-line metastatic GEA, metastatic breast cancer, and our pan-tumor program. We worked diligently over the last 2 years to launch the registrational clinical trials that you can see outlined on slide 18. One of the most exciting areas is breast cancer, the largest HER2-positive solid tumor market. We believe zanidatamab has the potential to play an important role following progression on Enhertu. We're evaluating this opportunity in our ongoing Empower 303 trial, which we expect top-line data from late next year or early 2028. At the same time, we are actively expanding our ambitions into earlier stage breast cancer, where the opportunity is substantially larger through the Empower Breast Cancer 208 trial, which was initiated over a year ago, and the I-SPY program. We're also actively engaged in combination strategies that could further enhance the value of zanidatamab. These include collaborations such as our ongoing study with Boehringer Ingelheim's zongertinib, as well as continued development in our registrational pan-tumor program across multiple HER2-expressing cancers. With the zanidatamab clinical development program well underway, the question is, where will we take zanidatamab next to unlock its full potential, which I'll cover next on slide 19. We have greater confidence in the molecule's ability to deliver meaningful outcomes across a much broader set of HER2-driven cancers, including earlier lines of therapy and larger tumor types. The Horizon GEA results significantly strengthen our conviction in zanidatamab's potential. Demonstrating unprecedented survival outcomes in a large phase 3 randomized clinical trial provides important validation of both the molecule and its underlying biology, reducing development risk as we expand the program. Based on the strength of the Horizon GEA data and the growing body of evidence supporting zanidatamab's unique mechanism of action, we're increasing our peak sales expectation for Zahira to $3 to $5 billion, up from our prior estimate of $2 billion plus. Beyond breast cancer, we are advancing registrational opportunities in colorectal cancer and evaluating potential pathways in non-small cell lung cancer. Early clinical data have been highly encouraging, and we look forward to progressing the program. Taken together, we believe Zahira has the potential to become a foundational HER2-directed therapy across multiple tumor types. Our updated peak sales range reflects both the progress we've made and the significant long-term opportunity we see ahead as we continue to expand the clinical and commercial potential of this asset. I'll conclude on slide 21. As we look ahead to the next decade and beyond, we see significant opportunity for growth, driven by Zahira's potential to redefine what is possible across HER2-expressing cancers. The approval of Zahira in GEA proves our ability to identify, develop, and bring highly differentiated, high-value assets to market, driving both clinical progress and long-term shareholder value. In addition, it's a validation of our vision to build a leading biotechnology company focused on innovative, life-changing medicines for rare diseases. As we expand the zanidatamab development program, we will explore both Jazz-sponsored and collaborative clinical trials to realize the full potential of this unique medicine. We're laser-focused on delivering a strong launch in GEA and realizing the increased Zahira peak sales opportunity of $3 to $5 billion through continued data generation, thoughtful global expansion, and disciplined commercial execution. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge and thank the patients, physicians, caregivers, and Jazz team members for their commitment and dedication to bring Zahira to this point. It's been an incredible effort over many years to reach FDA approval for GEA patients. And with that, I'll turn the call back to the operator to begin the Q&A session.
Thank you. As a reminder, if you would like to ask a question, please press star 1 on your telephone. You'll hear the automated message advising your hand is raised. We also ask that you limit yourself to one question, and please wait for your name and company to be announced before proceeding with your question. One moment while we compile the Q&A roster. Our first question today is coming from the line of Jessica Fye of JP Morgan. Please go ahead.
Hey guys, good afternoon. Congrats on the approval and thanks for taking our question. I'm curious, of the new $3 to $5 billion peak projection for Zahira, how much of that is accounted for by BTC and GEA, and how much of that is from additional indications? And then if I can ask for forgiveness in advance on asking a second question, can you talk about how you get to that 3,000 to 4,000 eligible frontline patients in the U.S. for Zani? What cuts do you take to get to that number? Thank you.
Hi Jess, it's Sam. Thanks for your question. Yes, obviously over the last couple of years we've learned a lot about the potential for Zahira, and we're very excited now with the approval of GEA to upgrade our peak potential for Zahira to $3 to $5 billion. As you may recall, the original estimates of $2 billion plus included both first-line BTC, the GEA approval, as well as the metastatic breast cancer and pan-tumor. The new $3 to $5 billion range obviously goes beyond that now with the approval of GEA. We're excited about taking Zahira into other HER2-expressing cancers such as colorectal cancer, non-small cell cancer, early-stage GEA, and early breast cancer. Whilst we're not providing a split between those indications that makes up the $3 to $5 billion peak, what I can say is that the GEA, BTC and GEA are a significant contributor to that. We're obviously now with the label, we're really excited to get going in GEA and start to deliver on the potential there. Just to the second part of your question, we've obviously talked about the 8,000 patients before. Now, as we look at the FDA-approved label, we're able to provide more specificity on what the exact kind of addressable patient population is of those 8,000. And to get to the 3,000 to 4,000, we're obviously looking at the unresectable disease patient population, as well as those that are eligible to receive treatment in the first-line setting and those who receive HER2 testing. So from that, we go from the 8,000 to the 3,000 to 4,000.
Thank you. One moment for the next question. Our next question is coming from the line of Mark Goodman of Leerink. Please go ahead.
Anything on the label that was a surprise to you? The commentary around the diarrhea, probably not. What about the IHC 3+ doublet kind of restriction? Anything there or that commentary? Thanks.
Hi, Mark. This is Rob. Thanks for your question. To me, the label is very, very favorable. We were really pleased to have approval of zanidatamab as now the preferred regimen for HER2 GEA, approval with tislelizumab, and irrespective of PD-L1 status. We really feel that the triplet is appropriate for every patient unless there's a specific contraindication. On the diarrhea, has been addressed already. This is a known toxicity of zanidatamab when combined with certain chemotherapy, and we found in the conduct of the clinical trial that it's very manageable with very few patients actually discontinuing Zahira due to diarrhea. Chumi touched on the education that's planned around this, which will be very important. And we think that some of that diarrhea is driven by capecitabine and may even be more manageable with FOLFOX in the U.S. when given appropriate prophylaxis and attending to onset of diarrhea. We're very pleased that the triplet is approved again, irrespective of PD-L1 status. And of course, that is for both IHC 2+ and 3+. Again, I think that this is a very poor prognosis disease. Many patients don't make it to second-line therapy. It's clear that the addition of tislelizumab benefited patients, which is consistent with prior PD-1 therapies in gastric cancer. And so we think the triplet is really the new standard of care. With regard to interpretation of data on IHC 2+, it's a very small subset. It's true from an epidemiology perspective. Most patients who are HER2 positive or 3+ in the trial was a very small subset. We think that the data are probably confounded by other factors, as is evidenced by overperformance of the control arm, where even in the control arm, 2+ did better than 3+. So overall, very favorable label from our perspective, and we think that zanidatamab is now the HER2 agent of choice in this setting, and the triplet really should be the standard of care for everyone who's eligible.
Thank you. One moment for the next question. Our next question is coming from the line of Gregory Renza of Truist Securities. Please go ahead.
Great. Good afternoon, Jazz team. Let me add my congratulations on the approval as well. For Rob and Samantha, just circling back to the change in your belief in the peak sales opportunity, certainly a decisive statement on going from, as you noted, Samantha, the 2+ to 3 to 5 billion. We appreciate the color you've provided. Just to add on that, just curious if you could comment a bit on how you're characterizing perhaps any change in the time horizon to peak, or the time to getting to that peak potential to the 3 to 5 billion. And also, are there any maybe alterations in how you're looking at the geographic spread that has also informed your conviction today on those numbers? Thanks so much, and congratulations again.
I can first of all comment on the peak sales potential. Yeah, we'd already always said $2 billion plus, and now we're being more concrete around what that plus actually represents. Obviously, with this GEA approval, it discharges some of the risk around some of the other studies that we have ongoing. We know that we have our development program in breast cancer, which is obviously one of the largest opportunities that we're now very excited about. Rob can speak a little bit about some of the timings associated with that. And obviously moving into early breast cancer as well, which will be a significant contributor to that overall peak potential for the program. So maybe, Rob, if I hand over to you to kind of say a little bit about the time horizon for some of those study readouts.
Yeah, happy to. I'll just very quickly maybe give a broad description. So remember, we're approved in second-line BTC, but we have a frontline BTC that's ongoing and progressing very well, where there's no HER2 therapy approved in that space. So combining with PD-L1 in that setting, we think the prospects of that being a positive study are very, very high. We now have the definitive new standard of care in frontline GEA. We're very interested in exploring other aspects of gastric cancer. I think there is the potential in early stage gastric cancer where, again, there's no approved HER2 therapy. As Sam mentioned, we've made meaningful progress on a phase 3 trial in a later line breast cancer setting post in HER2, which was kind of an obvious first place to go with zanidatamab in breast cancer, given how Enhertu is changing that treatment landscape. And there won't be any, this will really be the only pivotal trial that has looked specifically post Enhertu. And there, again, it's a head-to-head comparison with Herceptin. But we had broader ambitions in breast cancer, as Sam mentioned. We have ongoing phase 2 work in neoadjuvant breast cancer in our study 208, as well as collaborations with I-SPY and MD Anderson. And we'll look to interpret those data and potentially move to a pivotal trial in neoadjuvant adjuvant breast. We have collaborations with both Boehringer Ingelheim as well as Iambic on novel TKI combinations with zanidatamab, starting in breast cancer, but potentially in other settings. And the importance there is that that combination could be quite powerful, allow us to get to even earlier lines in breast cancer and difficult to treat populations such as brain mets. And then we have aspirations beyond that. You may have seen that we have breakthrough designation now in colorectal cancer. We'll be working with FDA to define a path to approval with colorectal cancer. We have an ongoing pan-tumor trial, which ultimately could give us a tumor agnostic indication. That trial is also enrolling non-small cell lung cancer patients who are overexpressing HER2, and there may ultimately be a path there as well. So a lot of opportunity now, given the results that we have so far with zanidatamab.
Thank you. One moment for the next question. Our next question is coming from the line of Annabelle Samimy of Stifel. Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. So it was good to see the broad label. I was curious about the extent to which Zahira could be used with Pembro rather than Tisli. Do you think there's going to be any kind of interchangeability in the marketplace, and how do physicians approach when they've been using Pembro? Just some curiosity about that. And then also the 3,000 to 4,000 eligible patient population, is there an opportunity to moving it towards the 8,000, or is the 3,000 to 4,000 quite set? Thanks.
Yeah, so the study was conducted with tislelizumab, which is already approved in the U.S. And so we think there's little obstacle to combining with tislelizumab. However, as you said, multiple other PD-1s have shown efficacy in gastric cancer. We do have an ongoing trial combining with pembrolizumab, which would provide some, let's say, safety and preliminary efficacy, such that if there were some compelling reason to use a PD-1 agent other than tislelizumab, we think zanidatamab would certainly be compatible.
And with the, hi Annabelle, it's Sam, the 3 to 4 patient population, this patient population that we're talking about here, that is reflected in that $3 to $5 billion peak estimate that we've provided. Within that, obviously, we're looking at the kind of unresectable disease. There's also those that are treated with that get a test. We will be focusing on ensuring that patients that are tested, first of all, that they're tested for HER2 positive, that's obviously routine, but those patients that are tested for and are positive for HER2, then they are treated with Zani. So these are all the areas that we'll be focused on during the launch phase.
Thank you. One moment for the next question. Our next question is coming from the line of Jason Gerberry of Bank of America. Please go ahead.
Hey guys, thanks for taking my question. Mine was just, would you expect physicians to prioritize the doublet in elderly patients? Some of the language in the label seemed to suggest that like the diarrhea profile, more severe cases, was less with the doublet. So curious if it's a meaningful size subgroup within GEA, if you think the doublet would get traction there, and how you think community docs will navigate some of the prophylactic measures with the diarrhea, and if there's any analogs you can point us to that give you a high degree of comfort that how that will be managed by community oncologists. Thanks.
Sure. So with regard to the older population, I do think that every eligible patient, unless there's a specific contraindication, should get the triplet. Remember, this is still a very lethal disease. It's clear that tislelizumab added to the benefit, irrespective of PD-L1 status. And you can even see as you look toward the latter parts of that curve that there's some encouragement there that might persist. We believe that the mechanism of action potentially synergizes with the PD-1. And so this is a disease where you don't want to sequence the therapies. You really want to give these best therapies up front where there may be synergy and you get the full benefit. In terms of toxicity, as as it was observed in younger than 65 or older than 65, interpret that with some caution. You start to get to small subgroups where other factors may be at play. And I would just point out specifically with regard to diarrhea, these are easily distinguished. The zanidatamab diarrhea comes on early, whereas tislelizumab diarrhea is more immune-related and tends to be more delayed. There are diagnostic evaluations that really can distinguish the two. So, and I'll let others comment potentially on, differences in community practice. But as I said, we conducted a very large global trial where we think the diarrhea is managed very, very well. There's needed education around starting with prophylaxis, ensuring the patients alert doctors promptly if they have onset of diarrhea, because more can be done in terms of supportive care, in terms of upping the antidiarrheal therapy. The label pretty clearly says to first modify chemotherapy so that you can maintain exposure to Zahira, which is really critical for the survival benefit. And so these various things that we know about how to manage will be subject of education for any new prescriber, whether that be at tertiary care centers or in the community. And I think everyone will be well equipped to manage this well. But maybe Sam or Chumi would want to add to that answer.
Yeah, I would just add that, of course, that the benefits of using Zahira in this patient population are clear from the data that we have, that we're familiar with now. And in the clinical trials, discontinuation rates of Zahira due to diarrhea was low, less than 5%. So what we want to do now is ensure that those results can be replicated in the real world. And we will be investing significantly to ensure that patients, doctors are supported to ensure that patients can stay on treatment and get the full benefit of Zahira. And maybe I'll just ask Chumi to comment here a little bit around some of the investments that we're making to achieve those goals.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. So we've invested in education around management of diarrhea, and we made some strategic investments that support sustained patient adherence, which is obviously important. We have a clinical nurse educator team that will provide support to nurses on patient initiation and management so that they have a first-rate experience. We're doing peer-to-peer education speaker programs that are targeted specifically at the community and will proactively educate on the evolving treatment paradigm, as well as the compelling efficacy and data. By supporting this education around long-term adherence, we can help patients achieve the best possible outcomes, so we're prepared to do that.
Thank you. One moment for the next question. Our next question is coming from the line of Leo Timochev of RBC. Please go ahead.
Hey guys, thanks for taking my question. Congrats on the approval. I wanted to ask more broadly on the development strategy. You guys are running the basket study for potentially, and you've talked about how it could potentially be registrational for a tumor agnostic label, but you're also exploring a potential registrational study in colorectal and in non-small cell, and I guess those would also be included in the basket study. So I guess what I'm asking is, how are you thinking about the differences that specific studies in colorectal non-small cell could add to the opportunity? I guess how you're thinking about what those clinical trials would be enrolling in terms of patients, and just any sort of differences in future labels that you'd be aiming for or patient segments. Thanks.
Sure. I'm happy to take that question. So the basket study or the pan-tumor trial was really meant to allow us to enroll the patients that we would need ultimately to get a tumor agnostic label. And we are progressing toward that goal. And we continue to think that is potentially a pivotal trial for that purpose. It's a place where we can get additional data in refractory colorectal cancer patients as well as non-small cell lung cancer patients, in addition to any patient across the whole range of rare tumors who overexpress HER2. So there may be an opportunity for a tumor agnostic indication, in addition to having enough patients in any one indication, such as colorectal or even non-small cell lung cancer, where you may get a specific label in that regard as well. Remember, for colorectal cancer patients, we had some phase 1 data. I think there were 28 patients in the phase 1. So we're adding to that in the study 206 pan-tumor. And on the basis of the combination of those from phase 1 and from the 206 study, we received breakthrough designation. And the next step now is to agree with the FDA on path to an approval for colorectal cancer. But you're right, it is an opportunity for a pan-tumor or tumor agnostic indication, as well as to generate data that could give us specific indications. And then, of course, there's the opportunity to go beyond that. That would be in a refractory setting, but there's always the possibility of then expanding into earlier lines as well.
Thank you. One moment for the next question, please. Our next question is coming from the line of David Amsellem of Piper Sandler. Please go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for taking our question. This is Alex on for David. Looking beyond the U.S., you've cited a combined annual incidence of, I believe, 63,000 across the U.S., EU, and Japan. Can you please provide more color on the EU specifically and the number of annual cases there, and just a general broad refresher on how you're thinking about the EU opportunity? Thanks.
Yes, thanks for the question. Yes, we've said 63,000 patients for GA, and that reflects, globally the US, Europe, and Japan. We are excited about taking zanidatamab, obviously, more broadly with this GA indication. We're anticipating an EMA approval before the end of this year, and we've also, as part of Project Orbis, the FDA filing has been also simultaneously completed in the UK and in Health Canada, so also anticipating approvals there in the foreseeable future. So yeah, excited about the potential for GEA beyond just the US and these major markets too.
Thank you. One moment, please, for the next question. Next question is coming from the line of Gary Nachman of Canaccord Genuity. Please go ahead.
Thanks, and congrats on the approval. So any commentary on what you think uptake should look like for the first few quarters of the GEA launch? How much pent-up demand is there within the 3,000 to 4,000 treatable patients that was waiting for this approval? And how smooth reimbursement will be using the existing J-code? And then based on the GEA approval and label, would you consider modifying anything in the breast cancer and other future studies? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. Yeah, we're really excited about the label approval today, very excited about the label itself and the opportunity that gives us with Zahira in this indication. As you know, we've been established in the field now with BTC and with our solid tumor team in general across Zepzelca as well. And so that gives us a major foothold that we've established. Chumi mentioned the strong overlap between prescribers, which means those relationships have already been developed. A lot of the friction that you might anticipate with a new launch doesn't really exist here because of the fact that we have the permanent J-code in place, reimbursement established as well. So maybe I'll just hand over to Chumi, who can speak a little bit about our plans here to really accelerate the launch of Zahira. I mean, we believe this data is really important for patients, and we believe that it's going to be very important for us to hit the ground running and ensure that patients can benefit from this treatment as soon as possible, and our plans and ambition really reflects that. So Chumi, perhaps you can add a little bit more depth and color to how we plan to do that.
Yeah, sure, Sam. We're really, really excited about the label that we've gotten and are ready to go. Our team is right-sized to capture the larger GA market without requiring major expansion. We did add some MSLs last year, and so we're ready to go. Not only do we have 90% overlap with BTC, but we've also been, as you know, very successful with Zepzelca, and it's the same team that has a strong presence in the community accounts and academic accounts. And so we're very established amongst the high-volume prescribers. And so we are ready to go. We've got the payer access. As Sam said, we have the J-code. And in addition to that, our state-of-the-art Jazz Care support services, along with flexible ordering and fulfillment options, will ensure that providers can access Zahira efficiently and without delays.
Thank you.
I think part of the question is, part of the question was also, did we learn anything there that impacts our thinking on breast cancer? And I would just say we're satisfied with the design of the breast cancer trial that's ongoing. We certainly learned a lot from the GA trial, though. And one thing was when you put Zani up against Herceptin directly in the context of GA, at least, and I think you can infer results in other contexts as well. It beats definitively. The other is that we think this mechanism of action with Zani probably synergizes with immunotherapy. If you think of all the trials that have been done with PD-1 agents in gastric cancer, they've all had restricted indications to patients whose tumors are PD-L1 positive. This is the first trial showing activity in PD-L1 negative patients, really suggesting that immune activation occurring with zanidatamab due to its unique mechanism of action, is probably synergizing with immunotherapy. And so that does make us think that, wherever we can go head-to-head with Herceptin, wherever we can combine with a PD-L1 or PD-1 antagonist like frontline BTC, like early gastric cancer, other settings, that could be a pretty good formula.
And perhaps just before we close this question, I think the other element of this was whether we expect a kind of bolus of patients that would be waiting for treatment. That's not something that we anticipate in this space, typically when patients get a diagnosis, they get treated right away. So that shouldn't be part of the expectation here. And I might also just add that on the previous question when we were talking about the EU, the expectation is that we will make a submission to the EU by the end of the year and not approval. So apologies for just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. One moment, please, for the next question. Our next question is coming from the line of Sean Laaman of Morgan Stanley. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, Jazz team. Congratulations, and hope everyone's well. Obviously, a big ramp to get to the new peak sales, but what early commercial data point do you believe would give investors confidence that the peak sales estimates may prove indeed reasonable? And how are you thinking about guiding? What sort of metrics do you think you might unfurl to investors as we go quarter to quarter during the launch? Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. Thanks for the question. In relation to the confidence, I think we're very confident about our potential to realise the full potential of Zahira. We've seen a really very strong uptake in BTC, achieving standard of care in that space, and we've also demonstrated our ability to execute in the community with the launch of Zepzelca in Forte. So we've got strength in this area, we've got experience in this area, and we're very confident about being able to execute here too. In terms of what we'll be reporting here will be quarterly sales, and maybe I'll just hand over to John here just to comment a little bit further on the guidance side of things.
Sure. Thanks, Sam. Yeah, Sean, I think the revenue number, as Sam's saying, is really the one to watch as the GEA launch gets off the ground, and then we'll be looking closely at the metrics and evaluating if there's good information we can provide to the street to help you assess how the launch is going and how Zahira is being accepted commercially and clinically. I wouldn't want to commit to anything specific right now, but we want to make sure that you've got good visibility as we do to how things are going, and we're excited about the GEA launch.
Thank you. One moment for the next question. Our next question is coming from the line of David Hoang of Deutsche Bank. Please go ahead.
Hi there. Thanks for taking my question and congrats on the approval. We just wanted to ask about if you have any your latest visibility on the NCCN review process and whether we should be expecting Category 1 recommendations for the doublet and the triplet. And is that recommendation in any way a gating factor to see more brisk uptake of Zahira and GEA? Thank you.
I can start by commenting on the process. We obviously don't control the timelines for NCCN. We know they have a regular meeting every year in August. We provided data every step of the way, including at the time of the abstract and oral presentation at ASCO GI and then the New England Journal of Medicine paper. And now we have approval, and so we're very confident in the label that we have and the data that support that label, and we do think that should come through to a Category 1 on NCCN. This is a drug that has a survival advantage showing more than 7 months difference in the triplet arm at a median level at the first interim analysis.
And I might just add, I think given the strength of the data, we would anticipate NCCN Category 1 listing. Had that NCCN approval come through forward earlier than the approval, then that might have paved the way for patients to have access sooner than the approval. But now that we have the approval and we have the label that we're thrilled about, we know the strength of this data, we have the J code already in place, then we're not anticipating any friction here when it comes to access. And in fact, our sales teams have been trained on the label, and they're in front of customers as of this afternoon. So everything is in place for us to be able to execute this launch, I think, extremely well.
Thank you. One moment for the next question, please. Next question is coming from the line of Ash Verma of UBS. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi there. This is Natalie on for Ash. Thanks for taking our question and congrats again on the label. So maybe just to build off of some of the prior questions, could you comment a bit more on the breakdown of patients in the community and what are some of your expectations for community growth? Thank you.
Thanks for the question. Yes, perhaps I'll hand to Chumi to talk around our community strategy.
Yeah, thank you, Sam, and thank you for the question. So the split between academic and community, about 30% of GEA is treated in the academic centers and about 70% of GEA is treated in the community. So as we launch, a lot of our investment and focus of the team is in the community setting. We have great relationships in the academic setting based on BTC, and a lot of focus of what we're doing is peer-to-peer education, working with the key community centers, and both our MSL teams as well as our sales teams are focused on education in the community and building upon relationships that we have due to Zepzelca and BTC. So we're ready to go there and focus there.
Thank you. One moment, please. The next question is coming from the line of Joseph Thome of TD Cowen. Please go ahead.
Hi, this is Jacob on for Joe. Thanks for taking our question. We were just wondering, now that the doublet is approved in IHC 3+ disease, what specifically do you think the second interim OS analysis could potentially change in labeling, NCCN guidance, or maybe even commercially? And then do you think a statistically significant OS outcome here could support a label update or a broader treatment recommendation? It kind of seems like you're maybe leaning more toward triplet right now, where possible.
Yeah, I mean, as we're reiterating that we're expecting that next interim this quarter, and certainly there's the potential for there to be useful information that would then result in the label update. But I would just reinforce that at the first interim, the data were quite mature and the results are quite definitive. It wasn't necessarily stat sig because we put a relatively small alpha against it. But if you look at the hazard ratios for overall survival and even the median compared to the control arm, it was a clinically meaningful difference with pretty narrow confidence intervals there. So I think it definitively showed that Zani beats Herceptin, and I'm not sure that the next interim, even if it's stat sig, changes my view on that. I think it's a favorable result. And to your point, we do think that the triplet is going to benefit patients most for all the reasons that we said before. It can be used irrespective of PD-L1 status. It's a very poor prognosis disease where you really want to give your best therapy up front. And in this case, we think there's potentially synergy between Zani and a PD-1 antagonist like tislelizumab. And so you want to combine them to get the greatest benefit for a population that, where previously maybe half the patients wouldn't have gotten to second-line therapy.
Yeah, I would just kind of reinforce that from the commercial perspective. We do believe that the Zahira in combination with tislelizumab and chemotherapy is the preferred choice for all patients, except those for whom it's not indicated or for whom tislelizumab may be contraindicated. And of course, in that patient population, That's for ICH2 plus and 3 plus across PD-L1 status as well. So, commercially, that's where our focus will be. That's where patients are going to get most benefit. So, the Arm B OS readout, we have everything in the label that we need right now to be successful. The OS readout to come obviously will be very interesting to see, and we would anticipate that the Arm C with the tislelizumab would continue to strengthen as well. So we're very excited with the label that we have. We believe that's going to give us every opportunity to really execute well commercially and ensure that patients can really make a really significant, meaningful benefit from this new treatment option.
This does conclude today's Q&A session. I would now like to turn the call back over to Sam for closing remarks. Please go ahead.
Thank you, operator, and thank you, everybody, for your questions today. We really hope that this overview of zanidatamab has conveyed our excitement about the potential for Zani to become the HER2-targeted agent of choice. I'd like to just close by thanking all of our Jazz colleagues for their commitment and dedication to bring Zahira to GEA patients in need. Thank you all very much.
This is today's programming. Thank you so much for participating.